Less than 24 hours before Apple reports earnings, can Tim Cook pull a highly profitable rabbit out of his hat? Investor Beat starts now. Thanks for watching. I'm Chris Hill. Following the year's worst week for the Dow Index thus far, Monday was a steadier day. Microsoft and DuPont, just two of the big stocks trying to lift the markets higher. Joining me in studio today, Brian Hinman and Jason Moser. Apple announces quarterly earnings after the market closes Tuesday afternoon, and the stakes could hardly be any higher. After an unprecedented 15-year run, shares of Apple have fallen more than 40% since last September. People are using the word disaster to describe these results that we're going to hear tomorrow. What turns it around for them? What's the one number that they report that makes you say, you know what, it's been a bad 7 months or so, but Apple is back?
Well, I don't know that we can necessarily boil all down into one number, but last week we were talking about Cirrus Logic's news about their downward guidance. We saw Verizon's earnings, which indicated potentially lighter iPhone 5 sales than we might have expected. And so really that's the one thing I'd like to know is, number one, what were the sales of iPhone 5s like? And then really secondly, what's the forward-looking picture here for the upgrade cycle? Because I think that's really the question is, how do they improve on the iPhone 5 at this point?
What do you think when you look at just one number or one thing that they can deliver?
Chris, the number I'm looking for is sales of older iPhones into emerging markets. Apple's caught in this weird spot right now where it's caught between easy growth, people switching from dumb phones to smartphones, where it's going to do really well, or it has done really well, and hard growth, where it is competing in purely the smartphone world, where people are renewing contracts and upgrading. That's a much harder battle to fight. So I want to find out how much easy growth Apple has left in it.
When you just look at the stock, you've got people out there saying, hey, look, it's trading at 9 times earnings. This is a value stock. This is cheap. Is it a good value, or is it just cheap for a reason?
No, I think it's good value. This stock is incredibly cheap. As everyone knows, expectations are so low that investors are almost pricing in that Apple will have no future innovation.
What do you think of the stock? Is it something that interests you tomorrow, or are you just going to sit back and wait and reevaluate on Wednesday after we know all the results?
It's something that interested me last week. And really, I think, we talked a lot about finding value in tech. And for the most part, I think that's a troublesome game there. But with Apple, it's a little bit different because their devices have already permeated the globe, and I don't think there's really any pulling back from that. So just as much as I think there was an overreaction when Apple was topping out over $700, I think that this is an overreaction to the downside. Their fair share price is somewhere in the middle there, but I think that today is a good value.
All right, let's get to some of the day's movers and shakers. Halliburton up after first quarter results came in better than expected. The energy giant also increased its dividend by 39%. You got some litigation costs here, but that seems like it's a little bit of a bump in the road.
Yeah, it's obscuring things a little bit. They're still reserving for potential Macondo liabilities. They've set aside about $1 billion. Don't let that overshadow what's really going on here. International growth was really strong here at Halliburton, and that's a big deal because of the way their business works. They are signing up new customers internationally. Those customers are going to be there for a long time, creating a steady stream of income for years to come.
General Electric down after analysts at JP Morgan downgraded the stock. GE reported first quarter results on Friday. First quarter profits were up. Like, how bad is this stock?
It wasn't that bad. Honestly, I look at downgrades. Downgrades are kind of like dogs in that they can really sometimes be our very best friend. It's more of a short-term concern, short-sighted look at the company. But remember, they just got rid of NBC. They're getting back to their bread and butter, planning on returning $18 billion to shareholders over the long haul here. So I think that investors in GE today are going to hang on to the stock 5-10 years down the road. Are going to be very happy they did.
Power One up big after Swiss-based ABB agreed to buy the energy company for $1 billion in cash. ABB is making a big push into solar energy. Does that interest you at all?
Not incredibly. ABB has made solar acquisitions in the past here. Really what's interesting about this is that Power One does not make solar panels, which is the area of solar market that has gotten absolutely decimated and that everyone wants to avoid. ABB makes power substations and transformers and that sort of thing. So they build huge systems. Power One plays a nice little niche in that market where they connect the energy that's harnessed from solar panels and plug it into the grid. So this is a nice bolt-on acquisition for ABB, simply to extend what it already does really well.
Speaking of transformers, shares of Hasbro hitting a new 52-week high. The toy maker's first quarter loss widened due to some restructuring charges, but You look at the 4 divisions, in 3 of the 4, they're making more money than they were a year ago.
Yeah, I missed out on the Transformers boat growing up. But, I look at something like Hasbro, and really the company does a great job. They're one of the big 2 toy makers out there. But when you compare their revenue growth of about 2% to something like Mattel that reported about 8% last week, it's just less inspiring. And I think that's for a reason. Mattel is a bigger company with a wider reach. They have a healthier balance sheet, maintain better margins. So given my druthers, I think I would rather take a Mattel over a Hasbro.
All right, that's going to do it for Monday. Let's look ahead to the rest of the week. Brian Hinman, what's a stock you have on your radar?
Radio Shack, ticker symbol RSH. A year ago, these guys had $4 billion in sales.
What?
I have no idea who went there, right? But they have $4 billion in sales, a ton of debt, and not much in the way of profits. This story is playing out very ugly, and I'm going to watch it go down.
All right, Jason, what about you?
So I'm going to actually be looking for Travelers. They report earnings tomorrow. I used to work at Travelers, Chris, and that doesn't have anything to do with this. But really, we've seen some information from Tom Gaynor with Markel Insurance that looks like the insurance market is firming up. And so with Travelers, one of the most reputable names in the business, I'm going to be looking for their reported book value along with a combined ratio, which essentially just tells us how much they're paying out versus how much they're bringing in. And anytime they keep that number under 100%, that's pretty good. They've been reporting pretty good under 100% numbers lately. And so that's what I'm going to be focused on with them tomorrow.
Does everyone who work at Travelers get free umbrellas?
I've got a big red umbrella in my trunk.
I'd be stunned if you didn't. All right, for Jason Moser and Brian Hinman, I'm Chris Hill. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.